How much have the Jazz improved? What to expect from Derrick Favors? A little football talk with the Utes and Cougars. Or what about going on at Transfer U, BYU? Plus, golf, Olympics if time fits. It's all next on a Tuesday edition of Tip Off. Boom, 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 boom. My apologies that Monday tip-off never happened. Boom, 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 boom. Wish I had a really good excuse, except for the day just got away from me. Boom, 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 boom. My only excuse might be I tried to do way too much this weekend to prove I'm not getting old. Boom, 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 boom. And only prove that I was really tired afterwards and getting old. It is a Tuesday edition of Tip-Off. Hope everyone's well. Nice to see you. Nice to chat with you. Hope everybody enjoyed the Olympics. It's over. Hope everybody's enjoying Newsroom. I'm a week behind. That show is awesome. I watched the Osama bin Laden episode last night, and it's just a great show. Gosh, it just had me like I was like every time, even on the show in which they said Osama bin Laden's been killed, I just got shivers and all emotional. And it's like a TV. My wife's like, it's a TV show, and I'm like, I know, but so anyway, just thought I'd share. Hope everyone's well. I don't know if there's any of us many of the people who grabbed this in Seattle since it's so jazz centric, but if there are, thoughts with all of you as the passing of a great TV anchor in that town, Kathy Gertson, just 54 years old or 53 years old. It definitely resonated. I knew Kathy fairly well. My wife was in TV in Seattle, and Kathy used to live in the same area and would walk the kind of same time every morning, and she and her golden retriever would come up. We'd stop, say hi every single time, and so sad to see, and but a great model for us. All right, that's a downer. Definitely was. Let's talk a little bit. The big trade went down between the Lakers and the Nuggets, and we went through and the two other teams. We went through how much everybody's improved. So I thought I'd do the same thing with the Jazz. I've posted this up at Locked On Jazz, but in case you haven't got it, on the Mo Williams Devin Harris trade, I pretended there were two trades: Mo Williams for Devin Harris, and then Randy Foye, Marvin Williams for Josh Howard, C.J. Miles, and Raja Bell. And very rudimentary, but it's generally been the type of research that's actually worked. As I talked about around the Dwight Howard deal, when Pau Gasol got traded and when Chris Paul got moved, they really showed incredible spikes for each of those teams. The Dwight Howard move doesn't show quite the same spike, but it does have the Lakers defensively getting 5 or 6 games better, which is certainly considerable. On the Iguodala, it had them even because of his offensive weaknesses. His defense obviously is fabulous. For the Jazz, if Mo Williams was traded for Devin Harris, they're both pretty funny characters because the year before, both of them were just awful. So you really can't go back anywhere. They got traded, and they both kind of fell apart. And they both have these kind of abnormal outlier years where both of them hit the All-Star, and neither of them is really an All-Star. And what it really turns out is they're incredibly similar. Their offensive efficiency is very, very close to each other. And defensively, Mo had a bad year last year with the Clippers. Devin didn't have a very good year with the Jazz, but largely because Mo played the shooting guard. And, and will go back to playing the point guard. And that's kind of the reoccurring theme on these trades is that there's, depending on the amount of, the Jazz staff does incredible amounts of research. They may have tipped something here that, frankly, it's hard to show for me in numbers. And that is that all three of the guys that the Jazz acquired very well may be playing slightly different positions than they were in their previous spots. And all of them will be playing their more natural defensive position with the Jazz. Mo Williams had to play shooting guard because of Chris Paul. That's not something he's particularly good at. And so now you have him playing the point guard. Marvin Williams, with the injury to Al Horford last year, slid down and played a bunch of power forward. That's not where he's good defensively. 2 years prior, when he played just the small forward, he was very, very good defensively. He really may be on the verge of something defensively. Randy Foye, interesting, is big, and as a shooting guard, he's just okay defensively at 6'4", but when you slide him down to play the point guard, last time he did this was a full season in Washington, he's a pretty high-level defensive player from the metrics. And defensive metrics are hard to read and hard to really know what's going on, but all three of them show that, and there's a chance that that's the case, that the Jazz may have tipped off to something, that if they play these guys, Foy would be playing out of a position where he's not most comfortable offensively, but the Jazz do feel he has the basic capability of getting you into an offense. If he was on the floor with Gordon or even with Burks, maybe those guys are able to get into the offense and let Foy come off some picks as a one and get free and still be the shooter that you want him to be at that position. So there's, in all this research, there's this kind of, that's the underlying thing I found, is that there's this chance that these guys are all going to be a good deal better than the Jazz had anticipated because of what they do defensively at this more natural defensive position where they may play. The end conclusion, which you can read, and I'm going to be and you can read all the detailed numbers on it, unless that would put you to sleep, and then just stick to this, is that the Mo Williams Devin Harris swap is about even statistically. Now the coaches feel that Mo is much better statistically. The coaches, defensively, they feel he's much tougher, and I think no one has said this to me, but the vibe I get is that they trust him much more going into a free agent year. I was told from some people that Randy Rigby made some comments on 1280 The Zone that were a little critical of Devin. I haven't had anyone say anything to me that's critical of Devin. I just got a vibe that that whole communication was never quite copacetic, and therefore I think the Jazz feel more comfortable with Mobley. But none of those things show in the numbers, and sometimes because I'm number-centric, I think a lot of those things are just but we'll see. Now, Marvin Williams and Randy Foy in for Josh, CJ, and Raja is interesting because Raja, though he only used 6-7 possessions a game last year, actually, if you remember, had a pretty good game, was hitting his threes, doing his stuff. He just became a total difficult malcontent. And Josh, who played a good deal, did not have a very good offensive year. CJ was right on his regular. Marvin and Randy both had good offensive years, and they picked the Jazz up with the possessions that they use at about 20 points. About over those 20 possessions, about a point per game, which comes out to about 2.7 wins per season. And right there, the Jazz get about a 3-game improvement. Defensively, Raj's numbers were awful last year. CJ, Josh, Marvin, and Randy, defensively, they're okay. They don't really move the meter. The Jazz are actually better the last 2 years defensively with CJ on the floor than with him off the floor, which was just stunning to me. And Josh, they were about the same and similar. So all the details are up at Locked On Jazz, and you can go look at them. But the end result was the Jazz got a little bit better in that realm. So the Jazz, I think, got about 3 games per 82-game schedule better with those 3 deals. What it really comes down to, and we've talked about endlessly with the Jazz, is how much better Derrick Favors is going to get. And my opinion is that Favors will leave the coaching staff no doubt, no ability to look otherwise, and will have to play him 35 minutes a night. That he's that good. He's a game changer. I think he's a young Dwight Howard. And really, if you look traditionally, this is when guys explode. There's only been 9 other players in NBA history that are 6'9" or taller who have played 2,900 minutes before they turn 21. Just here in July, Derrick turned 21. And I went and looked at those players, and I don't have all of the research done. I'll have it posted this afternoon, I hope. But if you look very traditionally, and I'll give you more details on this tomorrow for those of you that aren't Locked On Jazz readers, Andres Biedrins, Andrew Bynum, Greg Monroe, Amari Stoudemire, Brooke Lopez, Eddie Curry, Nene, Spencer Hawes, Chris Bosh, Dwight Howard. Tyson Chandler's in there too. So those are the guys, and if you look at every single one of them, following 2,500 minutes of action or 2 seasons, they go nuts. Biedrins played 1,300 minutes in his first 2 years. In his third year, at 20, he finally got 2,300 minutes. So he crosses over that, and the next season he becomes a double-double guy for 3 years. Bynum's one of the more interesting comps because Bynum at 18 enters the league while Favors stays in college for a year. So year 2, Bynum played 1,700 minutes plus his first years. He's right at that point where it's almost the exact same point where Favors is, and Bynum goes from 8 points, 4 rebounds, which is almost exactly what Favors was last year, to 13 points and 10 rebounds a game in his third season. And I think that's pretty fair to assume that this is the kind of stuff we're talking about with Favors. That Favors is going to be a 13-10, 14-11 type guy next year for the Jazz at that position. Greg Monroe's interesting because he was in the same draft as Favors but got more time early, playing 2,200 his rookie year, and then another 2,000 last year, much more time than Favors got. He goes from 9 points, 8 rebounds last year, which is really right where Favors was, or as a rookie, which is where Favors was at the end of last year, to 15 points, 10 rebounds. He's got a little bit more offensive skill. Their per 36-minute production has been very similar so far. In fact, Favors is a bit better. So that's where you can look at. Amari's an interesting one. Lopez, even Eddie Curry is actually a very good comp. Curry's career falls apart, but he kind of per 36 minutes was, or overall was a 9.4 rebound guy. Favors is an 8.6 rebound guy, and then Curry actually kind of burst that next year. So I think there's no question that Favors is should get his time, and Favors is in all likelihood going to be a big double-double guy in the NBA, and then the Jazz have to figure out the other minutes. On that note, I did a piece at We Are Utah Jazz as well on how those minutes get distributed, and what it comes down to is Millsap's going to have to play the 3 if he's going to play. That Favors and Cantor, Jefferson and Cantor are going to really end up splitting the 5 minutes, probably to the 34-14 kind of number, and then Favors and Millsap are splitting the 4 minutes, with Millsap getting those other minutes at the 3. Marvin playing the 3. Hayward and Burks playing the 2 minutes, with Randy Foye helping out at the 1, hopefully. And then, but the real logjam is where is Burks going to be able to get his minutes, and where Cantor's going to be able to get his minutes. And really what this comes down to from a Jazz standpoint is, Burks and Cantor are going to have to just prove it. They're going to have to, Cantor's going to have to get close enough to Al so that Corbin feels that putting him in the game helps the team. And Burks is going to have to be as good, if not better, than Randy Foye and prove that he can help the team. And that's where the logjam minutes are, is those 2 young guys, Burks and Cantor, are going to have a hard time. But I'm not worried about Favors. I just don't think there'll be any doubt on how much time he gets on the floor. A few notes. Let's talk a little football. I don't know if I'm going to get to McElroy in the Olympics. It's too bad because they're just going to slip away. Few notes. Utah camp. Very interesting comments yesterday by Kyle Whittingham, and to make them publicly. So one day he goes out of his way to say that Travis Wilson has completely clicked in. The next day he goes out of his way to say that all the quarterback spots are up for grabs. There's definitely, he's not just sharing information with us, he's sending a message. And my take is he's sending a 2-part message. One is, Kyle is not adverse to playing a freshman. He did it with Jordan Wynn, but he was adverse to playing a freshman right out of the chute. Now, what's interesting about this is that was when Utah was playing in the Mountain West Conference, and now playing in the Pac-12, I don't know where you give a freshman during a college football season a soft landing to join in. And so if it is becoming obvious, which I'm hoping it is, that Travis Wilson is abundantly more talented than your other quarterbacks. And my guess is, and I would hope, frankly, Jordan Wynn's not talented enough to be a big-time Pac-12 quarterback, and John Hayes certainly isn't. So I would hope that Travis Wilson is that good and is making it abundant obvious that he's going to be the next one. He's ready, and the question is how you give him a soft landing. There's some argument that Northern Colorado is your soft landing. I just think it's very curious. We'll see what happens the next few days of practice. It might be one of two things. It might have just been, hey, Jordan was kind of getting a little relaxed, and Kyle wanted to wake him up. Two, it could be a message to all of the other players on the team that be ready to be led by Travis because he's going to take over at some point during the year. In regards to BYU, 3 big transfers now inside of 8 months. DeMarcus Harrison, the basketball player, Josh Quezada, and Jake Heaps. What's interesting on this is if I'm correct, all 3 are LDS, and all 3 have left. And what I like about that is it means that we don't have to have this whole discussion that no non-LDS or player, an African American, can never handle it at BYU. It's an unfriendly environment. What I do kind of like about it is that it just means BYU is like every other school. Kids come, they transfer, they want something else, they go somewhere else, and that's the reality. It's not an end of the world situation. It's never good for your program to have invested in guys that can play and have them leave, but every program experiences that. And it's nice, at least from my standpoint, where BYU is oft criticized, doesn't have to deal with some of the underlying or sometimes overt comments by other people that, well, they can't handle this and you can't go there. These are just guys that wanted a different environment for whatever news. So that's the reason. There's also some other interesting things going on around the Pac-12. Ian Furness and I will check in on 2 guys around the Pac-12 and expect to get that podcast going once a week here very soon. I would actually hope to get it maybe even sometime this week. So I will talk with Ian. Ian, that was not available yesterday, as I mentioned. That actually Ian started his career working for the aforementioned anchor that passed yesterday. So he was a little busy with that. So anyway, a bunch of Derrick Favors research hopefully up sometime today. Hope you're enjoying the off season. And for those of you that were on Twitter and gave me the nice comments from Zach Lowe, I certainly appreciated that. Felt very flattered. Zach does a great job. I don't know Zach, but he does fabulous work. All right, that is today's edition of Tip Off. Sorry about yesterday. Hope you're well.